crochet friends, I'm Susan Lohman, the Crochet Architect. I've got a new video today to teach you how to make the Magic Square Potholder. You'll learn how to turn a rectangle into a square. And it's easy enough for beginners. So let's get started. Okay, I've got 3 Magic Square Potholders to show you. This one is made with 1 variegated yarn. And these 2 are made with a variegated and a solid, so you can use up your scraps if you'd like. This one is actually a little bit smaller than this one, so I probably used an H hook here and an I hook there. But they both are quite usable, and let's get into the actual pattern. Here's the pattern that I have for you today. This is a free download on my website. This is a pattern from Coats & Clark, copyrighted in 1984, and I'm using it with their permission. They say that the materials are Coats & Clark Red Heart yarn, 3 ounces. I added 100% cotton because that is what I use for potholders. I've had an acrylic potholder in the past, and it melts in the oven with the heat. Well, pulling something out of the oven. So do not use acrylic yarn. Use cotton or wool. This one is actually not 2 ounces. It's not 3 ounces, it's 2 ounces. So you can get away with one ball that's 2 ounces. This color is actually violet stripes. And you can see right here, it's 100% cotton, and it's a medium number 4, which is worsted weight. So all of those mean the same weight of yarn, medium, number 4, and worsted. We will be using an H or an I hook. I have an H for mine. You can use an I hook if you tend to crochet a little bit tighter, or you want a little bit looser stitches in your potholder. We have a gauge on here, and we can go through that a little bit later when I'm demonstrating. And we will start with 40 chains per the pattern. I will start with something a little bit smaller because I'm not going to demonstrate the full thing. But if you would like a copy of this pattern, it's a free download on my website. So I have the link in the video description. So we'll find our end here, and we will start our project the same way that we do for most all crochet projects, with the slip knot on our hook. This pattern is great for beginners, and I actually learned this potholder pattern before the thermal stitch potholder pattern. So I've taught it to many beginners. I'm going to demonstrate with 10 chains instead of 40. So I'm going to do my 10 chains, and I want them not too large and not too small, just the right tension. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I need 1 more. Okay, so there's the front of my chains, and there's the back of my chains. And our pattern says after we chain 40, we'll do 3 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So looking at the front of my chains, I see this is the first chain right here, and this is the second chain. And I always like to go under 2 loops of my chains, but some people like to go under 1 loop or the back bump. So whichever you prefer, that's fine, as long as you do that all the way across. Be consistent. So here's 1 single crochet, and we're going to do 2 more single crochet in the same chain for a total of 3 single crochets. So we are actually increasing at this beginning end. And we'll look at our pattern again, and it says to place a marker in the second single crochet of the 3 single crochet group. So let's do that. This is to help you count your stitches on round 1 easier. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So we'll put our marker right in that second one. And then we will look over here and it says 3 single crochet in each of next 37 chains. And I'm going to work in each of the next 7 chains because I'm making a smaller sample. So here's my next one. Still going under those 2 loops of the chain and being consistent all the way across. And we will not be increasing in the center of this. We will only increase on the ends. So just 1 single crochet in each of those chains. So it'll be nice and even across the center. And try to make our single crochets all the same size. And that comes with practice. And this should be the last one. And then we can double check our count. Okay, here's our first 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have the correct number across. We'll check our pattern again. And it says 3 single crochet in last chain, place a marker in second single crochet of 3 single crochet group. So we'll do that again. So we're going to increase at this end by working 3 single crochets into that last chain. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. And as you can see, these 3 single crochets are kind of rotating up. So we're going to be working on the other side of the chain. We're turning the corner right here. And that's what happens a lot of times with increases. So we have our 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to mark that second single crochet of the 3 single crochet group, and we will check our pattern again, see what's next. And it says, working along opposite side of chain, single crochet in each of next 37 chains. And then we're going to finish off the round after that. But let's look at what we've got. So we have our 3 single crochets in this chain right here, which was our last chain. We have our tail, so we might as well work over our tail on the other side of these chains. So you notice we're looking at the chains, the free loops of the chains on top instead of on the bottom. So we've rotated our piece around to work in these free loops of the chains. So our next stitch is over here. We don't want to start in the same chain where we worked those 3 single crochets on the end. We'll insert our hook under 1 strand and around the tail, basically weaving in the tail without having to weave it in, just by working over it. And since I started working my single crochets in 2 loops of the chain, I have 1 loop left, or 1 strand of each of the chains. So that's what I'm working into. If you worked into 1 strand of your chains, then you should have 2 strands left at the bottom to work it to. Okay, that should be my 7th chain. I see that this one here is where I worked the first 3, but we'll double check. This was 1, 2, and 3 at this end. We should have 7 more single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we do. I'm going to put our hook back in, making sure the leading edge is at the front so that the top of our next stitch doesn't get twisted. And we'll look at our pattern. And then we see that it says place contrasting color yarn between last single crochet and next single crochet, carrying yarn up each round to indicate beginning of each round. And that's my preferred way of marking the end and the beginning of the round when I'm working in rounds, because it's much easier just to put a piece of yarn in here of a contrasting color and bring it up each time you finish a round. So that's what we will do. But let's see what our stitch count should be. We should have 39 single crochet between the marked stitches, 80 single crochet total. So we have 2 marked stitches, and there would be 39 here and 39 here for a total of 80. Since I'm only doing 10, I should have 9 here and 9 here in the 2 marked stitches. So let's check that. We had 1 before our marked stitch with the 3 single crochet at the beginning. So we'll start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And on the other side, this one is marked. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these 2, that gives me a total of 20. So we're ready to move on to round 2. Round 2 is single crochet in the back loop of each single crochet around to beginning. So that's much easier and faster than working in both loops of the stitch. So we will start our round with our scrap of contrasting color yarn in between by working in the back loop only. We don't want to work in the front loop and the back loop, just the back loop for this. We want to make sure that our loop here doesn't get too large when we're starting our stitch, because that would make for a sloppy top of the next stitch. Okay, we have already counted our stitches, so we can remove these 2 stitch markers because they're just going to get in our way. We would have to keep moving them up. So here's my first single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet in each single crochet around. Now, we had started round 1 with a nice flat oval, but we're not increasing at the ends anymore. We're working even. So our piece is going to start moving in a different direction. It's going to kind of fold up, and you'll see that in a minute. But we just want to do a single crochet in the back loop of each single crochet around. It's very easy to do. You can do this while watching TV or sitting watching your kids playing sports or whatever. You just need good light and an adequate amount of warmth. It's kind of hard to do when it's really cold outside and your hands are cold. But we'll just keep working 1 single crochet in the back loop until we get around to our contrasting yarn, which is not going to be contrasting anymore because my yarn color has just changed to the blue. Which is what's nice about these variegated skeins. Okay, so I know I'm at the end because I've just worked into the stitch right in front of that contrasting yarn. So I should have the same number of stitches, and we can count them if we want to, or we can just keep going. It's your choice. But I've worked over the tail all the way across. If I had the full length of my 40 stitches and worked across that whole tail, I could go ahead and cut it off, and it would be nice and secure because it'll be in the inside as well. So we can move on to the next round. Let's see what the pattern says. It says rounds 3 through 17, repeat round 2 until work measures half of width, adding additional rounds as needed. So when they're saying measures half of width, they're talking about the height. Height will be half as tall as the width of the piece. So to start the next round with this contrasting piece of yarn here, marking the end of the round, we're just going to take it and fold it to the front. Because it was on the inside, now we're bringing it to the outside. And each time we do a round, we will flip it to the other side, either inside or outside. So it will be going back and forth all the way up our piece. So we will just be doing single crochets in the back loop all the way around for a total of 17 rounds, or until our piece is half as tall as it is wide. Oh, got the tail in there. So this is basically what it's going to start looking like. We can fold it in half here, and let me show you how to finish it. If you keep going and going that many rounds, you should end up with something like this. Okay, here is one that I am ready to finish. I've got 17 rounds from the bottom, which was right between this row and that one. Actually, they're rounds. So I have 17 rows high, and I've finished where my contrasting color yarn was coming up. And we are going to double check that we have the correct height and width. So let's take our nice little measuring tape and check, and we have 9 inches wide and 4.5 inches tall. So we have double the width as the height. Now, if you don't have a measuring tape, don't worry, you can take your piece and fold this corner down and fold that corner down and see if they meet. And if they do, then you have the right number of rounds. So in order to turn this piece, which is a rectangle, into a square, we're going to do this. We're going to hold it up like this and fold these 2 sides in. And it magically turns into a square. But it's not finished yet. But before I finish it, I want to show you, if you want it to be a rectangle instead of a square, just take these a little bit and move them over, these little corners, and you can get a little bit more of a rectangle instead of a square. So it's your choice whether you want it to be a square or a rectangle. And we'll go ahead and make it a square. But you'll notice that my ending tail is in the middle of the side. So we want to move it over here. And that's where the instructions tell us how to do that. So for finishing, we're going to single crochet in the back loop of the next 21 stitches, the middle of next side. So let's go ahead and do that. We can still leave our contrasting yarn there, just so we can count across if we want to. And we'll just work in the back loop, same way that we did before, and go across to the middle of that side. And if you don't keep your count, you lose your count. Don't worry about it, because you can always count from your piece of contrasting yarn, or you can eyeball it. And then we'll be there shortly. It takes a while to do the 21 stitches across. 21 is just a little bit more than half of the width. Let's take a look and see where we are. Nope, looks like we need to go a few more stitches. So we'll get to the middle of this side, and then we can finish it off. A few more. Okay, let's see. That looks pretty good. We can count our stitches. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We can take one out if we like, and then we can take it again and fold these edges in to make a nice square. And there we are. We have our yarn now at the corner. But if you want to make this a potholder that hangs, you'll need to do a certain number of chains. You can chain 14 or less. This pattern says 14, but I kind of prefer 9. That's the size loop I like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's long enough for my hanging loop. So we want to keep this in our magic square shape. And we want to close up this opening. Now there's 2 different ways to do it. You can do it per the pattern, which I will demonstrate, which says to, we just actually did the pull middle of each side apart to form diagonal corners of square, working through both thicknesses of last round. We will slip stitch in the back loop of each single crochet across to the other corner. So let me show you what that will look like. There's a little bit of a ridge here when you do the slip stitch in the back loop. It's not a problem typically, but if you want that to be flatter, you can leave yourself a long tail and use a tapestry needle and whip stitch in the back loops to close that up, and it'll be flatter. So your choice, if you don't want to do any sewing, basically, to close it up, then you can do this slip stitch in the back loop of each single crochet. So this was our last stitch, and we want to go through both thicknesses. We want to go through the front and the back, so to speak. So this is our first stitch, and that's our back loop. And this right here was our last single crochet, so that's our back loop right there. We want to slip stitch in those. We don't want to slip stitch in any of these chains, and we don't want to skip any stitches here at the end. Okay, see, we've got a stitch worked here, and then we've got our slip stitch worked here and there in our last stitch. So we will do a slip stitch in the back loop of each set of two, single crochets on the front and the back. We've now got a front and a back, so to speak, the two layers to close up the gap. So we would do that all the way across till we get to this end and finish off and weave in the end. And then you can remove this scrap of contrasting yarn and you'll have a finished potholder, just like these other ones. Now you can use solid colors, you can use variegated colors, you can use scraps, a solid and a variegated. Here's one that I started that is just solid, and it can be folded in and finished off. Whatever you like. This is a nice beginner pattern because you're doing typical stitches in mostly the typical way. If the thermal stitch potholder was tricky for you to figure out where to put your hook, then I know you're going to have a much better time with this one. This Magic Square Potholder does use a little bit more yarn than the thermal stitch potholder, but this is, I only have to go across here with my slip stitches and I should have plenty of yarn left over. So with a 2-ounce ball of yarn, you will have plenty to get that done. This was the sugar and cream. I've also used loops and threads. This is from Michael's. And I've also used a peaches and cream, which comes in a big cone from Walmart. So if you're in the US, you have all those options, hopefully. Now that Joann's is closed, it's a little bit more tricky, but we shall find the yarn that we need. So here's your thermal, not thermal, here's the Magic Square Potholder. Let's take a look at that gauge. We haven't looked at that yet. So the pattern shows that the gauge is 4 single crochets is 1 inch and 4 rounds is 2 inches. And this is how they're measuring them. We measure across and see 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. But let's go to 2 inches. 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got kind of 8.5 is 2 inches, but it doesn't matter that much on a potholder because we're not making a garment and it doesn't have to fit. So it can be any size. And this is how I found that they are measuring the gauge for the rounds. Here's the center right here because I see stitches going this way and that way. So we'll put the 1 on there and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 rounds because this is a round. It's not 8 rows, it's 4 rounds is 2 inches. So that's how they're getting that 4 rounds is 2 inches. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make the Magic Square Potholder and you'll give it a try soon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more videos. Happy potholder crocheting to you! Hi crochet friends, I'm Susan Lohman, the Crochet Architect. I've got a new video today to